So this was a bit of a last-minute swap. So Miss Woods was going to be here, and she had something else come up. So you're stuck with the OCONUS Cloud lead. Ta-da! OCONUS Cloud. It's a kind of a hot button. It's a big point that it's an itch that has needed to be scratched for a long time. And DISA being DISA, what we try to do is find the areas where our mission partners are lacking, and we want to provide that capability to those mission partners. So it's a little bit different than, kind of in the commercial world where it's a mad boarding session of what has good profit, what has good, retention and revenue and all these different things. For DISA, it starts with what do our mission partners need? What is actually going to enable them to better complete their duties, and ultimately what's going to enable them to be to better defend our nation, right? We are a combat support agency at its core. That is what we exist to do. Can we go ahead and go to the next slide, please? All right, every time I talk, I always try to start with this slide. I am one very, very small piece of this slide, but everything in J9, in the hosting and compute organization, everything fits together, again, to enable the warfighter to complete the mission, the tasks at hand. So there are kind of different categorizations. I'll start first off on the commercial cloud side. Everyone's heard of JWCC. That's a huge portion of what we do and what we support. JWCC's intent was to take a complex, arduous, time-consuming cloud journey, speed it up, make it faster, make it simple. That's their motto at its core, is making cloud simple. To go along with that, there are what we call cloud accelerators. These are products that, again, make the process, the cloud journey, from I want cloud to I have a usable application in the cloud, to smooth that journey out as much as possible. Things like speeding up the acquisition package time, or providing a way to manage a cloud environment, or building out brand new environments using infrastructure as code templates and getting ATO accreditation inheritance. Things that are repeatable activities that everyone going to the cloud is going to have to do. We have tried to introduce a product that will make that simpler, smoother, more user-friendly, and with the ultimate goal of getting to cloud, rather than climbing up a giant mountain, it to be a delightful experience. Now, to go along with that, we also have, and there's been a lot of talk recently about software factories. We have Vulkan, again, finding that itch, finding that way that we, at an enterprise level, can provide a capability that enables the rest of the force to better perform their function, perform their role. What we've done for this, Vulkan, we've taken software that historically has resided in the cloud, and as much as it's counterintuitive, we've brought it on-prem. And so what this has allowed us to do is taken things like the Atlassian suite and provide it as a managed service at IL5 on-prem in our data center instance, and it's gone a long way in terms of resiliency through recent activities. Our Vulkan stack has been able to stay live and operational. I apologize, when I turn my head, I feel like I'm cutting out a lot. It's a very directional mic. All right, Stratus. So one of my roles is as the program manager for Stratus. Stratus is our private cloud solution. So Stratus and JWCC, both cloud solutions, complementary clouds. JWCC, of course, is the commercial cloud program, whereas Stratus is our government-owned, government-operated private cloud. Now, there has been talk and thought of, well, at this point in time, is there still a compelling need for the government to be in the owning its own cloud business? And I would say the thousands of customers say yes, but more importantly, we are still getting new requirements for applications and systems and programs that are mandated to run in government-owned, government-operated infrastructures. So again, Stratus exists for the specific applications that have that compelling need, the salient feature that says this needs to be in government-owned, government-operating infrastructure. That, at its core, is the itch that we scratch. However, because of the challenges facing OCONUS Cloud and the fact that Stratus exists inside of DISA data centers, that's where the hardware is physically located, we've had a great opportunity to expand Stratus outside of the United States and actually bring it into OCONUS regions. Again, because we are already on U.S. sovereign soil outside of the contiguous United States, thus making the data sovereignty issues that have plagued other vendors less of an issue for us, right? We are still on U.S. sovereign soil while we are in Indo-PACOM, while we are in EUCOM. You'll see here we do have one little pilot site kind of lit up in the middle. So our initial push for OCONUS Cloud, our first expansion of Stratus, and our first pilot location for Joint Operational Edge, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a second, first push was into Hawaii. And our Stratus stack there is live and operational, ready for workload. Come talk to me and we'll get you on Stratus. And then we are continuing to work through the Joe instantiation and working through the cyber accreditation process to bring that online. So the Joint Operational Edge is focused on extending commercial cloud edge offerings to the operational edge on DoD premise. So we are taking a AWS Outpost and placing it inside of a DISA data center. We're taking an Azure Stack Hub and placing it inside of a DISA data center. We're taking the edge offerings from the different vendors that are under JWCC, placing them in our care, in our data centers, and extending them forward at the operational edge. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later. Next slide, please. I feel like I just talked over all of this. All right, so current activities for Stratus. I'll kind of start off here. So right now we have, like I said, we have the live instantiation in Hawaii. We are continuing to press, Indo-PACOM specifically being a theater that is so geographically dispersed as opposed to all other COCOM theaters, stretching all the way from Alaska to Guam to Australia. I mean, the entire Indo-PACOM theater is huge, and so we are taking that into consideration as we expand Stratus, as we expand Joe, making sure that we are providing resilient cloud capabilities in a massively geographically dispersed region. So we are extending Stratus further into Indo-PACOM, and then we have plans to extend it. I'm directionally challenged at the moment. So at the moment we're extending it into Japan, and we have future plans to move it into other regions within Indo-PACOM. So Stratus will continue to grow and evolve, and the beautiful thing about Stratus, yet again, it is directly connected at the moment. We started off our expansions at the IL6/SIPRNet level. It is native to SIPRNet, so this is not a connection process. There's no cloud access point. There's nothing. There's no ingress. There's no egress. None of the things that you typically would associate at the IL6 level. We natively reside on SIPR for OCONUS. Nipper will come at a later point in time, but our first push, again, trying to scratch that particular itch, that need that our mission partners are bringing to us, our first push was for SIPR. Joint Operational Edge, following the same logic. We started out at the IL6 level. Again, that is where our compelling need is. Our first foray under Joint Operational Edge was a three-way partnership between U.S. SOCOM, DoD CIO, and then DISA. And we have worked closely throughout this process to bring that AWS Outpost, which was the initial offering, to bring that outpost into Hawaii, and it was installed over the summer, and we're working through the accreditation process now to bring folks on. The line to get on that is huge. Like, we are seeing a massive amount of demand signal right now to move on to the Joe outpost. So we're very excited for that piece, the cyber piece to conclude, and we can start bringing in non-production workloads. And I'm going to specify the non-production workload piece because this is the first joint operational edge node. There are so many unknowns we have not yet uncovered. So the initial is a pilot. We are piloting this with test data. We are taking those lessons learned. We are already rolling into our next deployment, our future deployments, and we're rolling those lessons in. And rather than being stuck behind a long, and I won't get into a debate of waterfall versus agile, but rather than being stuck behind a big waterfall, we're rolling those into our releases as we're moving forward. So starting off, Joe in Indo-PACOM, like we just talked about. Provides cloud-native experience. So all we're doing is extending the cloud. So everything that you are accustomed to and used to in commercial cloud and OCONUS, all that still has to exist. All we are doing is bringing a portion of that and projecting it to the operational edge, trying to get it as close to the warfighter as we can at a fixed location close by, right? So that's what the operational edge, and I'm getting ahead of myself again. Next slide, 1 second. Can you go back one? Bottom of the slide. There's a third prong to our OCONUS cloud strategy right now, and that third prong has to do with validation of tactical edge equipment. So we have our private cloud, we have our operational edge, and now we're getting into tactical edge. This is the handhelds. This is the the small form factor that actually will go into harm's way. So because of that, it's important that we have complete faith and trust that those devices are going to function as they're intended to, because when they need to is when it really matters. It's not about email, it's about life or death situations. So we have a joint team that's headed up by a soldier, an Army captain who's leading that group, and they are putting all of the devices that are currently offered at the tactical edge, they are putting them through as many tests and putting them through their paces. I think so far they've managed to break every single one unanimously, so always trust a soldier to break a device. But they have gone through, they've found ways to successfully implement these devices and ways to develop that confidence in that device that it's not just a toaster with a vendor sticker on the side of it. It's actually a cloud device, a handheld or a backpack mounted cloud device that is going to perform as it is supposed to do. So there are multiple layers of this evaluation. The first one was going into the data or the vendor's data centers and poking and prodding all of their kit. The second one is bringing that equipment back to a simulated deployed environment on a military installation, building it in a parking lot, and then running it again through more tests and fielding it again in that quasi-simulated deployed environment, right? All right, that's tactical edge. Almost forgot it. Next slide, please. For real this time. All right, Stratus. Stratus is an infrastructure as a service cloud offering. So everything that you have come to know and love and expect out of infrastructure as a service, we bring that. We bring that to you. IaaS is the foundational first step out of traditional hosting into cloud. It can be your long-term step. It can be just your first step. From my perspective, Stratus really fits two categories, and I would love to bring it into a third category. So the first category is legacy applications that we are dependent on that are not suitable for commercial cloud. We all know what they are. We all have that one application that we have to log into at some point in our day, and it looks like it is from 1985 because it is, but it needs to move to the cloud, and we are able to provide that legacy support through Stratus. The second piece is the second categorization that is best applicable for Stratus are the applications that are mandated to reside in government-owned, government-operated infrastructures. You see this for like back-end software for like mobility devices, things of that nature. There are specific regulations that say this needs to be here, this needs to be there, and that's where we're able to kind of meet that requirement as well. The third piece, as we grow Stratus, as we evolve Stratus, we are trying to get to a point where we are a transitional cloud as well. So what I mean by that is there's a mandate to get out of traditional data centers and move to cloud. We get it. But that can be hard when applications are not intended to work in the cloud. So they need to go somewhere in order to meet that first mandate, and while they're there, they can undergo the refactoring that is required to make them truly cloud ready to be in another environment, to take advantage of cloud native services, things of that nature, right? So Stratus becomes that transitional piece, and as we robust the offering and as we add new features such as native containerization support through Tanzu or through other options that are out there, as we explore different ways to bring not just traditional IaaS elements, then we can provide that transitional cloud at what point in time we're providing the optionality to go anywhere, right? So someone coming in with a legacy application through IaaS sits there. It needs to be refactored. It needs to be rebuilt to a containerized modern day application, or even prepped for serverless or for cloud native PaaS type environments. They can sit in Stratus while they're refactoring. At what point in time, if they love Stratus, that's great. You can stay. However, they can then make a choice of cloud based on requirements, not based on it's a legacy application and this is the only place I can put it. The goal is to bring it to a point where that any mission owner bringing an application in Stratus has the choice to be somewhere else. Couple reasons. One, workforce evolves. As folks come and go, the expertise that exists within an individual organization could be focused on one CSP more so than another, etc. So there needs to be some cloud agnostic application thought process going on. The second piece is, if my customers have options to leave, I'm going to be a whole lot nicer to them. So I try to do that to keep myself accountable. Last thing, I'm going to skip pretty much everything on this slide. Y'all can read it, and I'm sure you can download stuff if not. But the last thing on this slide I want to highlight, no ingress or egress. So as we expand into OCONUS, we are just expanding. We are a live environment in CONUS today. So anyone who is looking to move into Stratus, no matter what theater they're in, they can move into Stratus now. I know on the West Coast, most folks are perspective based on Indo-PACOM. But if I'll cross theaters for just a moment and talk about EUCOM, we are in the process of deploying a node in EUCOM. Anyone in EUCOM can move into Stratus today. And then once that node is live, seamlessly move between our enclaves over into EUCOM. What that allows is it allows anyone who wants to come in to begin working on the truly time-consuming aspects of a migration into cloud. Things like ATO and accreditation, and things that we know are going to draw process out for migration. They can start working on that now while we're still building a new node. And then once the accreditation is live, because we have a shared accreditation boundary across all of our locations, it can seamlessly move over. So we are trying again to remove as many obstacles and challenges to getting into the cloud today as possible as we bring it and as we expand it into other theaters. Next slide, please. Joint Operational Edge. Apologize, I don't usually talk this much. Extending commercial cloud, it's what we talked about. The thought process behind, and you know what, let's actually go to the next slide and I'll come back to this one. Thank you. I like this one a little bit better. All right. before we can really talk about joint operational edge, we got to understand the different layers of cloud computing, right? So we have our strategic, our operational, our tactical. These are terms. This is a construct that everyone in the military has been familiar with since the first day they walked in the door. We have our strategic cloud. These are your hyperscales, right? Like these are the folks that have invested billions and billions in building American-based cloud to be ginormous and huge and amazing and awesome and fast. All the things. We have that here in OCONUS. Very easy. Operational. This is kind of a middle tier. This is a fixed or semi-fixed, so either inside of a facility, inside of a location, or in like a connex or a mobile data center, things of that nature. So fixed or semi-fixed environments that support both reach back to strategic assets, but also pushing forward to tactical assets. So this is where, if you kind of look at the responsibility of where we are able to help at a DISA level, we are not able or have any desire to compete with a hyperscale, right? So we can help you get to the hyperscales. That's where we can help. At the tactical level, we are not tactical on a daily basis with all of the services. But where we can step in and where we can be most advantageous and provide the most value is at that operational middle tier. So places not all the way forward, but a couple steps back, right? So that's the concept of joint operational edge. That's what we're targeting. That's what we're focusing on, is providing that middle tier to, again, extend as much compute and as much capability as far downrange as possible, but still at the point of, I'm not going to strap a rack on Petty Officer Snuffy's back and have him walk around with it. Like, that's just not going to work. So there's a point where we project as far as we possibly can to support a user base, while still having the reach back to larger assets and larger ability here in OCONUS. And why does that matter? So if you think about data and how data is handled, manipulated, viewed, processed, there are some data manipulation activities that can happen in your hand. There are some that can happen in that middle tier. And then there are obviously the big activities, the massive computations, the things that really need the scale that exists in OCONUS. So in order to smoothly, I don't like the word bandwidth, but I'm going to use it anyway because everyone knows what I'm talking about. In order to free up the conceptual bandwidth here, rather than having tactical assets have to transfer all data all the way back to OCONUS for processing, manipulation, analysis, and then return all the way back to a tactical asset, that is clogging and it's inefficient. And it does not get the critical data needed to the people at the time that it is needed. And I know that's kind of a wonky way to phrase that. So what this allows is it allows computing and analytical activities to happen as far down range as possible where applicable. So at the operational edge, there can be limited AI/ML. And then any more advanced, larger functions have to reach back to OCONUS, but then those are feeding into the operational edge, and then that's where you have that data transference cycle, so that the output of that can then be distributed to the warfighter. So again, we are freeing up the communication cycles as it bounces back and forth, getting the right information to the right compute resources who can handle that, manipulate that, and do what is needed with that data. Multi-tenant. So, joint operational edge is not a vendor proprietary, this vendor will do X, Y, and Z. So, the concept, again, is all vendors under JWCC have their tactical edge and their operational edge capabilities. We at the HAC strive again to provide that optionality. That optionality being at the operational edge, what cloud is best for your mission, not what cloud is there. So if we can bring operational edge capabilities from all of the cloud service providers, at least into each theater, we are providing that optionality so that decisions don't have to be made, again, based on availability, but it can be based on actual mission needs. If an application works better under a particular flavor of cloud, that's fantastic. Let's give you that cloud so that your application can work as seamlessly and as smoothly as possible. All right, let's bounce back one. Thank you. All right, again, last one on here, everybody's favorite, ingress, egress, caveat at the edge. So again, when we're talking about data manipulation at different layers at different operational, strategic, tactical layers, every time that data is traversing back and forth, huge chunks of data going one way, coming the other way, you have those ingress, those egress, right? So being able to extend that thought process further down towards the warfighter, that removes, it not only speeds up capability, it also removes a cost burden, which is always a thing that we are concerned with. As we are moving into Indo-PACOM, the concept of mesh is more critical than in most theaters that I've seen, right? Extending the web, the mesh, to as many different locations, some DISA locations, some partner locations, extending to these different environments with resiliency and with COOP at the forefront. So in terms of COOP capability, both Stratus and AWS, Stratus and Joe, my apologies. Stratus and Joe provide application level COOP through multi-site failover. Again, not only multi-site, but we're targeting multi-tiered, i.e. Site 1 to Site 2, Site 2 back to OCONUS, etc. So providing as many failover options as possible, both for commercial and for Stratus. All right, so I'm usually an 18-minute talker. I don't know what I'm at for time, but I think I'm right around 18. So can we go forward too? All right. All the way on the other side of the country, we have the Hack Customer Symposium coming up in 2 weeks-ish, yes. It is an opportunity to come and at a tactical level, we will have some tactical edge devices there to poke and play with if you want. But it's an opportunity to come and see the entire swath of what the Hack provides, the services that we offer, the people the smart people that actually make them work. Apologize, I'm not one of those, but the smart folks that actually make it work. We bring our nerds to this event. So it's a wonderful opportunity if you want to really get into the weeds and understand the why and the how, and get the acronym and the alphabet soups really flying. All right, next slide, please. And if anyone has questions, I apologize, I missed one. So, Hybrid Cloud Broker. This is a fairly new group within the hosting and compute. I want to say year and a half, 2 years old. There are so many offerings between traditional hosting, between the product management office, cloud related, traditional related. There's so many products, services, and offerings that we have in J9. We needed a dedicated group to be that front door, right? So rather than having to chase a PM down a hallway saying, please, I want to use your thing, you have a team of dedicated engineers, experts, business analysts, across the board. Like it's a full dedicated team to welcome you in and to make sure that what you get from DISA is what you want from DISA, or they will recommend that you go somewhere else if we can't give you what you want, right? So the goal here with this group is not so much capture, but more about making sure that we can get our mission partners the right service that they need for the long term, right? Because ultimately it's about two things. We support the warfighter, we support the taxpayer. And if we're not taking care of our customers by both of those two litmus tests, then we're not doing the job that we should be. So, with that being said, what questions can I answer? There is a microphone all the way in the back. I will stare you down the entire time you are walking to the microphone. Jokes. And they're off. They're off. It's a race.
Okay, I'll start with the last. How exactly does the hack go out and find the custom cloud solutions that they would then give to your customers to satisfy their requirements?
All right, so if I understood the question, it was how do we find the solutions that we provide to our customers? I don't know, I asked the smart guy. So there's a few different ways to do it. So the hack stays very closely entwined with all of our DISA field offices. Our field offices have the conversations directly with all of the folks within their individual areas of responsibility, right? So if Petty Officer Snuffy says, I really want this in my cloud, well, she walks over to the DISA PAC field office and says, how can DISA do this? And then Ms. Chung there at the DISA PAC office, she calls me and she says, John, how do we do this? And then I turn around to my engineers and I say, okay, here's the things that they need. They need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. How do we make that happen? Wouldn't it be cool if? And then we start the development process. Oh, well, we'll use JWCC as the example. And I wave at a slide that's not there anymore, my fault. We use JWCC as an example. They needed cloud. We looked at that process and said, okay, here are all the stumbling blocks along the way. Let's make something that does this. Let's make something that does that. Let's make something that does this. And then we're taking that cloud journey and we're making it as simple as possible. Sorry, he sat down right in front of you. That was pretty funny. Sorry, Paul. Did that answer your question, sir? Pretty much? I'll take it pretty much. Kind of a C student, so that's pretty much.
Can you talk to any cybersecurity considerations you guys have factored in, like inheritance if people come and are hosted in your environment, or what the pathway is for that?
Sure, absolutely. So starting off with Stratus. So Stratus is a system that has an ATO. So rather than going through the FedRAMP process and receiving a provisional authorization, Stratus is a government-owned system, has its own ATO. That ATO provides inheritance for all of our customers for a subset of controls, right? So if an application, when it's all said and done in Stratus, needs 300 controls, they can inherit, 20, 30, 40 from Stratus, and then they have something to start with, right? And Stratus also receives inheritance from the data centers because we exist inside data centers. So physical controls, we inherit those from the data centers. Our mission partners can then inherit those from us, right? So it's a multi layers of accreditation inheritance.